Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Professor Dr. Rizwan Jamil Qureshi, and I am going to cover lecture number 19 of IT Need Assessment and Technology Evaluation course. There are four types of development approaches, and we also call them programming approaches. Structured programming is there, object-oriented programming is there, event-driven programming, declarative programming. So structured, object-oriented, event-driven, declarative. The first three are most commonly used for software development in commercial applications, whereas the declarative programming is used for expert systems and neural networks. So software companies are mostly dealing in first three type of programming approaches: structured, object-oriented, and event-driven. Structured programming is basically composed of top-down, modular, and control structure approaches. The top-down, we divide the problem, we look the problem from top to down, and we divide it in modules. It is also called problem decomposition or stepwise refinement. Like hierarchical charts are most commonly used to decompose the functions, because it is not possible that we show all functions and their sub-functions, the menus and sub-menus. So the hierarchical charts are the most commonly used technique, like organizational charts. And then the control structure is also composed of three sub-approaches: sequence, selection, and repetition. All programs can be written using sequence programming. Like there are 4 steps to write code: declare variables, input instructions, processing instructions, and output instructions. So that's the sequence, and we cannot change the order of the sequence while writing the code. The selection is if-else structure or switch case, select case structure. If we want to select between or among different things, like average is greater than 95, A plus greater than 90, A, and so on, till less than 60, fail. So that's the selection. And then we have repetition, which is also called iteration or loop approach, like for, next, do, while when we want to repeat the same instruction and there is an exit point to terminate the loop. For example, input the first number, input second number, input third number, and then we assign the values into some variable, and then the next input, like sum, num1, num2, num3, and so on. The object-oriented programming is already covered like the structured. In object-oriented programming, we deal with the objects. So object is a combination of data and processes into a single entity that is uniquely identifiable, like student, employee, department, customer, citizen, and so on. So we have classes. Classes is a collection of objects like Java, .NET, PHP programming languages. And event-driven, the program is handled or triggered by the user or fired by the user. So it is also called interactive programming or event-driven programming, in which program waits for the user to perform an action or fire an action, like click event, or in Java we have action listener, item listener. The most commonly is the hybrid approach, in which we are using object-oriented as well as the event-driven programming approach. So we have PHP programming language, GSP, C#, ASP.NET, VB.NET, Ruby. So these are the examples of such programming languages which are object-oriented as well as event-driven. In structured approach, The analysis level, we draw data flow diagrams, ERD diagrams after collecting the requirements to model them. So DFD and ERD are the modeling techniques. So we collect the requirement and then we model them using data flow diagrams for the front end and ERD entity relationship diagrams for the back end. This is the analysis level. Then the design level, we have architectural design, schema architecture like logical schema, internal schema, external schema, server program design, stored procedures, 4GL application design, and at the implementation level we have server programming, client programming. Client programming, the client-side scripts are there, like JavaScript is the most commonly used client-side script, and then you have server-side scripts like ASP, ASP.NET, Java, JSP, applets, frames, Swing, servlets, PHP. After programming, you do the testing. So testing is a process to identify maximum number of bugs, and then you have performance tuning, integration testing, system testing, then the 3-tier deployment. We have client-server architecture, single tier, 2-tier, 3-tier or multiple tier, N-tier. 3-tier architecture is the most commonly used architecture for commercial applications right now in the software companies, in the software industry. The single tier presentation, application logic, and the data all are handled by single application installed on the server. So there is one server, and then 2-tier architecture, you have presentation and application logic on one server. So there are 2 tier mean layer, row. So presentation and application logic on one server and database on another server to increase the performance, to increase the security. And the 3-tier architecture, we totally divide the 3 layers. 3 servers are there, presentation on one server, application logic on another server, database on another server. And then you can have scalability, you can scale it, extend it to 3-tier, to multiple tier, N-tier. So you can have security server, database server, file server, print server, and so on. So that's about the structured approach. Then you have object-oriented approach. In object-oriented approach, after collecting the requirements, you have UML modeling, use case diagram, class diagram, sequence diagram, state diagram, collaboration diagram, activity diagram, deployment diagram, package diagram, component diagram. So there are so many diagrams. It's up to the software company which type of diagram they want to use. Like as per my experience, I visited around 100 plus software companies. There are some companies only using use case diagram, some companies only using sequence diagram, some companies using only class diagram or use case and class, or class and sequence, depending upon the expertise of the system architect. So we have system architect, that is his job to design the architecture of the system. And then you have the object-oriented implementation in terms of front end, and the back end you use the relational approaches. So you have hierarchical approach, relational approach, object-oriented approach for database architecture or database modeling. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.